in regards to 300 Broadway. My name is Mike Reeves, and I'm the city manager. So first thing right off the bat, let me just go over the meeting and how we see this laying out. It's not an official meeting of the city. It's for us to present information, but also to hear information. We're going to have a couple presentations. One will be by the Historical Commission presentation by Kim Turner. The second will be the Historical Society presentation by Georgia Phelan. And then I'm going to give you an update in terms of 300 Broadway, where we're at, what's going on, what have I done over the last few months, and perhaps where we're headed a little bit. I have no large news bombs that I'm going to drop tonight, so everybody relax. There's nothing, there's no imminent sale or no, they're not backing up to the building to tear it down, or we have no grand project to announce tonight. I wish it was that way, but it's unfortunate we don't. But I will give you a candid view of where we stand. It's my hope and drive and to continue to try to find ways to save the building. So I'm trying to exhaust all possible avenues or opportunities, if you will. And I'm going to go over how many people have looked at the building, you know, developers that I walked through with their comments and those type of things. And then I will take a few questions. If you have a lot of questions, I have business cards here. You can contact me during normal business hours or via email. I'm glad to keep up with you and answer questions if you like, or provide you any information I have. Also provide you anything that we've done as a city, whether it be engineering reports or anything else, reports we may get from the listing agent, anything like that. Happy to provide it to anybody. You won't have to do it for you. Just call me or send me an email, and I'll be happy to provide that information. I'd ask that we limit our questions or limit our use of questions to something reasonable in case we have a number of people that want to ask questions. So we try not to repeat different questions, and I've already been here about 13 hours, and Jason's been here just as long, so I'm looking forward to dinner sometime tonight. So first off, we're going to bring up Kim Turner. Kim, if you wouldn't mind, she's representing the Historical Commission.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Turner, and I'm the chairperson of the Marine City Historic Commission. We oversee the historic district that contains the historic City Hall and all the local artifacts that are displayed there. It's better known as Heritage Square Park. The park was created by our founder, Samuel Ward, when he first laid out the village in 1831, then plotted it later with the county in 1834-36. I couldn't quite pin down the actual year, but that's how long that section of land has been a dedicated park to the city. Because of this, I firmly believe that only a portion of the land should be sold with the building. Possibly the land directly north of the building, which does not contain any artifacts. The remaining portion of the park on Main Street and Broadway should continue to be a public gathering space for Heritage Square Park. The Historic Commission will work with whoever becomes the steward of Historic City Hall. The best way to do that is for the city to become a certified local government, or a CLG for short. We are about halfway through the process of completing the CLG certification, but we will need the city's help and support of local historical preservation efforts. The CLG program provides a framework for communities to develop strong local preservation programs and offers participating communities access to exclusive benefits and tools from the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service, including prioritized technical assistance, grant funding opportunities, and training and education, and more. Our goal is to keep our beautiful hall standing for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, Georgia Phelan, representing the Historical Society.
All right. I haven't done a PowerPoint in a long time.
Just going to be a space bar to go through, or you can
Okay, super. Okay, I am Georgia Phelan with the Historical Society of Marine City. I have several roles there. I'm a membership chair and handle a lot of our marketing, and like everybody on the board, work on all the projects and activities that we have. So our perspective about this is that we're here in good faith that our efforts will be utilized and helpful. As much as the building represents Marine City by its presence being there, it would also represent Marine City if it was torn down and it went away and no longer was that icon of the city that people see when they come and go. This is a big task that's being undertaken here by the city, and cooperative partnerships are critical to success with it, particularly with if a new owner comes in. We've been asked with addressing 3 questions. So I'm going to take them each one at a time here. The first question we were given was, what is our vision of the future of this building? So we see possible uses by a new owner. We're focusing on there being a new owner and it being utilized somehow for the future. One that keeps coming up, because we've seen it other places, is a high-end wedding venue or other special events. But high-end wedding venues of this type are rented out for extended periods by the week or weekend. Wedding participants can stay there. They have their ceremony. They can have their receptions there. They can do whatever they want. Unique locations such as this community are very popular for this use. And we do have the supporting amenities that owners of these buildings are looking for, and their renters as well. And that would be good restaurants are nearby, other accommodations. We have a hotel, a lot of Airbnbs that are out there. We don't see them, but they're out there. Those are the kinds of things they're looking for, the waterfront location, of course. So this is something that we know exists in other communities, and they pay big money. It's something I have trouble wrapping my head around, but people will pay, and I know Cheryl his daughter has experience with a place on the west side of the state that, let's go, $50,000 to rent that? $50,000 per weekend to rent this. So these are the kinds of things that would make a return to a new owner of the building. It could, and then of course on non-weekends or when it's not rented, it could be used for other special events and rentals. Another thought we had was as an educational facility, college level or trade level, trade schools for skills training, construction management, hotel, restaurant, facilities management, culinary arts, that kind of thing. Plenty of room for that type of thing to go on. And they often have those off-site. Other opportunities would be performing arts venue, a distillery, and breweries, and we had wineries, and now distilleries are the hot thing. Condominiums, using the space or some of the space in the building, office and or retail spaces, mixed uses, which is probably most likely what would happen with it, and other special uses and activities. We're open to supporting any use provided the historic exterior is maintained. It's not realistic to think that the interior is usable just the way that it is. It was designed at another time, but it has applications. The Opera House upstairs has fantastic acoustics. If anybody's involved with music or sound, and that it's really an unusual, unique place. They built them that way because they did not have sound systems. So when people performed or spoke, they needed to be able to be heard, and they don't always build them like that anymore. The next question was, what ready, immediate assistance can we provide? So this is what do we have on hand, at our disposal, or what we can get. Financially, we have over $80,000 dedicated to this building that's in the bank, drawing interest. Although in the big picture, it's not lots of money because we know this is going to take a lot of money. Should the exterior remain intact, we'd be willing to use the money however it'd be helpful to a new owner. If that would be, we'd love to see some public aspect to the building, but if somebody purchases it for private use, we still are interested in maintaining the structure in this community and would consider financially helping it or in one of these other ways. We partner for grants. Matching funds are be a supporting organization. That funding organizations are frequently looking for stakeholders and multiple partners in these kinds of things, because then they see that there's commitment beyond one organization, one individual, whenever they see that it's community-wide. So we would certainly be interested in helping with that. We'd be interested in leasing part of the building if that worked out. It could lead to more grant opportunities for a new owner because of a non-profit participation in the building. Because some things are available to nonprofits, some are available to for-profits, some are available to a mixture of the two. So again, they look for multi-stakeholder projects. Ongoing research and for funding and buyers. I've got to give hats off to Michelle Nichter over here. She is a researcher like you can't, and she's not afraid to make phone calls and knock on doors and do what she has to do. And she has been aggressively developing organizational relationships with organizations that could help lead to a new owner or to new funding sources. And so she's got a whole spreadsheet going here on that, and it keeps growing. For the city right now, we could help to fix immediate physical threats, such as the tower roof leaks. The building started to deteriorate because of roof leaks in the first place, and we certainly don't want to go full circle and come back to that. So if that's something that needs to be done to keep the building intact, that's something we would consider helping with. We did this for the fire suppression system that needed repairs and updates. So we spent about almost $3,000 on that. And of course, the city does not have an actual fund for that building, so we can step up when we can. The third question was, what kind of ongoing support could we provide? This, again, depends on the new owner and new uses of how we would come into play on that. And again, maintaining the historical exterior is our priority. Some possibilities going forward. Again, to provide that local partnership, to share our very intimate physical, financial, historical knowledge of the building. We are kind of a repository for a lot of this stuff that's happened there, happened in the past, happened recently. We've got a pretty nice spreadsheet on financial commitments that have made there to the physical structure of the building and the money that's been spent by us, by the city, by other entities. We would certainly ongoing financial fundraising support if it was desired or applicable in the circumstances. We'd act as tour hosts again if an organization came in and wanted to make that open, and that we certainly have the knowledge to be able to take people through there. We remain open to new ideas, uses, efforts of the city or a new owner to keep the building in its place at Heritage Square. Our hope, if desired by new owners, to be a partner in restoration and reuse of historic City Hall. Other thoughts about this. We would really like the opportunity to discuss and hopefully work with the real estate company, if possible, to sell the building to an appropriate buyer who would keep it in place. We don't know if the building's been promoted, and maybe we're going to get an update from Mr. Reeves tonight, to high-profile restorers, people like Nicole Curtis, if you've seen her, rehab addict, right? Yeah. HGTV, those kinds of places. We can't have too much exposure because it's going to take a unique buyer for this building. So the wider the net that's thrown, the better the chances are going to be. We'd also like to see some positive public exposure, like articles, Metro Detroit area media, articles to restoration publications, that kind of thing. Again, throwing that net out as wide as we possibly can. And we're willing to help with that in any way we can. So we thank you for the opportunity to participate in this. It's a really important issue. It's a long road we've all been on, and it's not over yet. So hopefully we can work together to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, first off, I want to start out by offering a couple comments. First of all, Marine City is blessed to have so many different people and so many different groups that have an interest and have taken to heart an artifact of building such as this. Very candidly, a lot of other communities want structures like that or downtowns like that we have, and they try to recreate those utilizing new construction, and it's just not possible. So I recognize that. I will tell you right now going forward, based upon an analysis I've done over the last year's time, there is no path forward for the city to maintain control and manage a project that requires that type of capital going forward. Everybody's probably heard me mention at least once, if not twice, about some infrastructure issues we might be facing. Those are critical. You see evidence of those as you drive over our bumpy streets and have no water on certain days and maybe have sewage issues, disposal of sewage issues. Those are ongoing, and those are going to face this community for multiple years going forward. I will tell you that we are planning on multiple different projects, not only with this 1/3 water drinking project, but we've also got projects planned for sanitary and storm repair. We've got a wastewater treatment plant project planned already in 2026. We're planning in 2027 today for another drinking water project, all in regards to the number of infrastructure issues that we have. So I just want to give you, tell you that right up front, that the focus, in my opinion, and I have to advise the board of this, and I have advised the board of this, is that we really have to bear down and concentrate on the day-to-day necessities of infrastructure. And very candidly, people don't recognize it until it doesn't work. Until the water doesn't flow or the toilet doesn't flush, nobody thinks anything about it. It's the hidden danger. We are beyond end of life for our infrastructure. It is already listed as critical or failing in many parts of the city. We're going to move our construction process into the oldest part of the city. We're doing some work right now to try to identify issues. We're finding collapse sanitary, collapse storm, sinkholes, combined systems, which, as many of you are aware, are illegal, amongst many other different issues as we go forward. So we know we've got a big hill to climb over the next decade or so replacing infrastructure. And a lot of people don't think about that and say, well, geez, when was the last time we did an infrastructure program like this? Well, you try to regularly plan for this stuff, but realistically, we're dealing with stuff that was put in the early 30s. We're literally moving pipes that have wood stuck into them with lead melted around the iron cast top so it doesn't leak. We've had oak wood water delivery lines. So literally you're dealing with infrastructure that's 80 to 100 years old sometimes. So in terms of the city having the ability to deal with the building and be able to finance or be able to be and very candidly, I will tell you, the city is not, in my opinion now, and I'm not expressing the opinion of the board, but in my opinion, we are not set up to properly handle a project of that magnitude. And even if we were, I'm not sure we do a good job at it, because very candidly, sometimes we have our hands full just doing what we do every day to provide services at a decent level to our residents. So it takes a special kind of firm or company or person to take on a project of that nature. And that's been one of the issues that we struggle in finding that special person and that special firm to look at that building and say, okay, I see what it is, but what's the vision? What can I see what it can become? So one of the things that we did is we brought on the pilot group, which the city has done previous work in. And I looked at multiple different firms throughout Michigan, and we ended up settling on the pilot group. And they have several different software packages, but one's called LoopNet CoStar, which is a marketing source that is in CRE, which is commercial real estate, that almost every broker or every search person, developer utilizes to go search for properties or special properties. It also has a component for historical properties. It also has a component for public-private development. So it reaches into a number of different areas. And over the period of time that we've had the pilot group, and it's, I don't have the exact date that we started, but it's been a good 6 to 7 months now, I would say. We've had 3,239 total views of the property. We've had what they call unique prospects of 1,362. We have had 200 detail page views, and what that means, they've actually dived down into the property and looked at the attachments. So if you ever went on the Pilot's website, you'll notice that there is a drone video. There is additional documentation that's provided about the building. There's the engineering report, which I'll discuss shortly. So there's additional documentation that's available for people out there to take a look at the building. The frequency is a minimum of 2 per week. The average time on the page, what kind of concerns me a little bit, is 32 seconds. That's not a lot of time when you're looking at views. Total time on the page is 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 17 seconds. So when I look at over 6 to 7 months, in my mind, that's not a lot of time spent on marketing. One of the things that Georgia commented on, and Kim has commented on in the past, is talking to, and you brought up, high-end developers. Who's done things like this before? What person or group has experienced these type of things before, and what is their vision? So what I did is I worked across the state and asked a number of different individuals, some local, one out of Port Huron who's taken on a significant amount of different properties, Sperry's, a hotel, lofts, the Art Van, the Wrigley Center, that's one. But I talked to guys like Raymond Miniverne. Mr. Miniverne and his family are the developers of the old state mental hospital in Traverse City. So I've met with Mr. Miniverne and talked to him, and I've been to his project multiple times. And I picked his brain. I sent him all the information relative to this building. I asked him to take a look at the building, and I asked him, what do you see when you look at this type of building? What would you envision for its use? One of the things that we did and I'm going to get back to what he said, one of the things that we did when we listed this building is we listed it in multiple ways with no price. And the reason we did that is we wanted to be open to any and all visions. So I didn't want to allow it to be building only, land only, because it really then gives parameters to what the vision should be. It could be building, it could be private, it could be public-private, it could be land without the building, where we have an open slate and we attach no price to it. And the reason we did that was to allow the market to determine what the price or what the value of it. Why did we do that? Because it's a difficult building to have comparables done with. Find another building that looks like that, or was built by that architect, or is within St. Clair County, or is within the southeast Michigan metropolitan area, or across the country, and then try to compare an apples to apples version of that. So that's one of the reasons why we list it in such that manner, hoping to get feedback. So what Mr. Miniverne and others have basically told me is you're dealing with a unicorn. You're not going to find that exact comparable for that project. You have to find somebody that sees something in the building and gets what they call their ROI. And every developer that I've talked to, every person that's gone through the building, and believe me, many of you have been out beating the bushes. I've had a number of phone calls from people that you've talked to that called me and say, hey, I have a building, and tell me about it and what's involved, and they're developers in their own right. You've had friends who I've allowed into the building to take photos of the building so they could send it to architects, a guy I'm familiar with from Petoskey. So a lot of different people have had an opportunity to this. And a couple things come out of these conversations right off the bat. Number one, ROI. How do I get my return on the investment? If the investment is $11 million, let's just use that as an example. We can argue, we can talk. We've had it updated. Today, it's more than $11 million, but let's use $11 million. If I put $11 million into it, and $11 million brought it up to today's standards, how do I get my return on the investment? And then how long will it take me to get my return on investment? Because obviously I'm a developer, I don't expect it all at once, and very candidly, they can't use it all at once because it affects their tax status. But how long does it take me to get my return? How does that return come to me? So in terms of how it comes to me, does it come back in forms of equity, cash? Does it come back to me in forms of taxable exemptions and different things? So they look at a number of that. So how do I get my return on the money? And then how do I make the building go forward? What is the vision that allows the building to go forward? The next question, if we can answer that, he says to me, who's coming to the party? Every developer that I've talked to wants to know who else has skin in the game. So I have brought in, and we have met with, we talked to SHPO, we talked to the State Preservation Office, and it's unfortunate right now, we did reach out, there was information that the state would be interested in buying the building. The state is not interested in buying the building. The state's not in no shape to buy the building. Very candidly, the folks from SHPO are just right now trying to save their staff. They're in a tough way. And maybe that'll change in the future, but right now they're not looking at taking on any properties. But we went to them for advice, grants. Who do we talk to at a federal level? How do we go about this? Can you be a conduit to assist a developer? We talked to the MEDC. We talked to MISHDA. We talked to the EDA. We talked to the St. Clair County Community Foundation to align for nonprofits to allow funds to throw towards a development. So we tried to put together a group of people that could assist a developer in going forward on this project. But at the end of the day, developers, and these guys are smart, who else's money can we use to help make this project? And typically there is a third, and a third. They don't want to expose more than a third of their capital. They want a third of the money to come from others, and then a third to come from grants or forgiveness in terms of tax exemptions, different type of programs. You can like it, you can not like it, but very candidly on large projects, I'll throw them all over the state. If you're putting in a wrong example for St. Clair County, a battery plant. The state's going to throw X amount of dollars in, the county will throw X amount of dollars in, local government will do this, and this. The feds will do, if you're going to provide X amount of jobs, we'll give you this, and all these funds go towards that one purpose. That's the type of thing that these developers in Raymond told me. You have to put together a pool of groups or organizations that will assist in this project. That becomes problematic in terms of getting everybody to make a commitment. And I'll give you an example. Last year, the MEDC operated in one manner. This year, after this year's state budget, they're going to operate in a totally different manner. Last year, St. Clair County had multiple projects that were eligible for MEDC funding. We received one. This year, I'm told from MEDC, the county, all-inclusive, may get one project. So they're really offering one project to all 83 counties. The funding mechanisms and how they're going to go about it has changed. Now, that's not to say as we move forward, things won't work out, but we're in a competition with every other entity in the county to provide that one project. I have a number of different projects going on in the city with different developments. There's a couple down on Water Street. There's a couple that are getting ready to renovate buildings. They bought buildings. They're doing things. They're talking to the MEDC. They're talking to MISHA. And they want their project to be that project. I can't commit to that project. I can't commit any of that to it because right now, for the city, in terms of our look, 300 Broadway would be the project that we would want to propose for that type of use. Okay, so I want you to, first of all, see what it takes to put together, and second of all, how we're envisioning this. So I have other buildings, I don't want to mention the addresses, but you all are familiar with these locations, that they're saying, we want to use this, or we want to use this. We're saying, you'll have to use another available alternative, whether we have to put together a brownfield, whether we have to put together a DDA, whether we have to do a number of different things, a CLA. We can do those type of things, but this project here would take precedence over these other projects. So we're trying to already prioritize as what we're going forward. So when I talked to Mr. Minervini, he took a look at it, he says, you know what? You got an elephant, you can't eat it all at one time. You really have to market the building across the country and then work the market. Once you put together your group and you have a group that's willing to sit down with these developers, they're going to come back to you and say, okay, we have an interest in the building, or we have an interest in the property, or we would like to do this. And then there has to be a plan going forward in terms of the city, the county, and the state, how there'll be long-term care into that project. That's difficult to do with the county, the state, and very candidly with the city, because the city is not in a position to financially be a partner in that. The county right now is probably not aligned in the best manner, my opinion only, to be venturesome to support a lot of different business developments. It seems the pendulum has kind of swung back another way, but we're willing to go on our own in order to create the energy to get those things done. And the state, very candidly, is a hot, wet mess in terms of MISTA and MEDC funding going forward. So I said, Mr. Minervini, how do we go about finding the right person then for this building, and how do we match it? Is this a building that would speak to you? And he says, it's a beautiful building, I like it, but I can't envision how I could get my return on investment. I suggested to him housing, mixed use, distillery, mixed use with condos, a public auditorium area, a wedding use, venue use, boutique hotel, a number of these different things, and asked him, how do you see that? He says, one of the first things you want to do is make sure that what your vision is doesn't cramp other taxpayers. So as an example, if you had four of one thing in town, coffee shops, don't put a fifth coffee shop that has public-private money into it to compete against the four coffee shops that are trying to make a living in their tax-paying businesses. Keep that in mind as you go forward. So I says, well, the problem is the building has a significant number of issues. It's been empty 21 years. It's been that long already. That in itself has been problematic, and I'll go into that, how that continues to be problematic here shortly. He couldn't offer us an idea that he would say, hey, this is where I would pursue this, or this is how I would go about this. He said, it's a lovely building. It's not something that I would be interested in at this time. I'm still doing my project. I'm multiple years into it. I've got the senior housing component done. I've got condominiums done. I've got the restaurants done. I've got the mixed use done. And if you've ever been up there, it's a fascinating building and phenomenal work that he's doing. He says, but literally this is a 10 to 20 year project, and that's how we vetted it out. Who have I talked to? What have they said? I've had developers to come in the building. They crawled through the building. They measured the building. They brought their architects into the building. I've had everything from a coffee shop and a daycare to public use of the auditorium area to a music hall to the top area of the floors being loft living with Riverview amenities, commercial in the middle, a museum, a for-profit museum. I've had one developer in particular that would say, I would keep the building, I would work on the building, I don't have what the vision of the building would be, but in order to get my ROI, I'd have to install housing all the way around the building, keep the building in the middle of the park, and then allow public access into the area, which is kind of a neat concept because you still have a park area within the premise of the area, but you'd have clustered housing around the front of it. And then he had his architect draw me some couple sketches just to show what something to look at. I had another developer who looked at the building, walked it, had a couple structural people take a look at the building, and said very candidly, and this person's not from this area, the value's in the property, not in the building. And I said, well, our first wish and our first hope is to save the building, keep the building, do something with the building. And he says very candidly, in order to get my ROI, I've got to put density housing. What I get out of the property is the value of the property is the infrastructure is already in the ground. I'm not replacing the infrastructure, so I save on the infrastructure costs, and I've got to get density around that block. We'll give you a park in the middle of it, but brownstones or something of that nature. So a number of these different individuals have talked to us. Has anybody said, I want to come forward and make you an offer? The answer is no. If they had, I would have brought that back to the City Commission. Do we foresee, or does the listing company foresee that happening? Their answer is no. One of the things they indicate to me, with over 3,200 views of the properties being broadcasted to a pretty wide space, a group of investors and people. The reason for the struggle in finding a useful purchase is the complexity of the building and the deal. And the deal I explained over here in terms of how to have to package a building of that nature. This is obviously not a standard commercial deal that an investor or a user can easily put numbers onto. The piece of property is going to command a lot of resources, whether that be capital or time, or spread over time. So not only capital, but spread over a significant amount of years, and then spread over a significant amount of years to get their return. His suggestion would be to establish a price point and see if that can turn some these clicks into strong leads. I've thought about that, but I don't think that's a realistic approach, because I think that detours or takes away from the immediate focus, which is trying to save the building versus going in another direction. So I've declined to him that option at this point. I'd rather leave it out there for others to look at and focus more on finding somebody to take care of the building. Where do we go from here? Well, it's still listed. We're still actively working to try to find somebody to come forward and work with us. We're still active with MISTA, MEDC, EDA, Community Foundation. We meet on a regular basis to talk about the building. I'm continuing to have conversations. I need your help, okay, very candidly. Some of you are well connected, and some of you have worked hard to reach out to different organizations or different people. In terms of, I've had some of you reach out to people, and one lady called me and says, yes, I had these two nice ladies in, and they told me about your building, and I'm willing to be a caregiver. When can I move in? I'll maintain the building, but I have to live there in order. Those aren't the type of high-end things I'm looking for. If you are reaching out, and I know this, somebody said Michelle has outreach with, multifaceted outreach with organized groups, those need to come back through the city. So I want to make sure it's not a group I'm talking to, but also I have the ability to tie them in to this other work group so they know that that already exists. It's difficult if we have a multifaceted approach and one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. All I ask is you work with me so that we can try it and make sure we identify and we don't go over the same ground at the same time. Where are we at today? The building's been empty for 21 years. We're struggling. The building's a frequent target for vandals. Many of you have seen it's been spray painted. Many of you called and were aware that vandals removed numerous bricks out of the columns. Many of you have noticed that some of the steps are now deteriorating, or if you step on the step, it'll flop back. We'll probably have to close off some entrances. Shortly here, we'll have the remaining property taken out of the building, and then the interior wall, or the interior doors of the building will be secured. It's unfortunate, but some of the doors, it's the worst kept secret in Marine City, is that you just pull and the bungee cord opens and the door was locked with a bungee cord and you can gain access. We have people on a regular basis that go in the building and deface the building or do other things. A number of different pieces of property have been removed from the building without our permission or knowledge. We're trying to stop that as well. We have some immediate needs. I want to thank you recently. You helped us with a Cintas fire inspection program. We have no money budgeted at this point. We have a buildings and ground account that spreads over 13 different facilities, including that, but I have no money at this point budgeted for the upkeep of 300 Broadway. Very candidly, we just did the first facility studies this city's done. I don't know if they've ever done a facility study from top to bottom. We just got them back, and we have some city properties that are failing. So, and they're in active use. So I'll have to address those issues. But I will tell you, in terms of upkeep at the 300 Broadway, we have a new roof issue. We've had rodents in there that have worked their way through the roof. We have a water issue. We have one furnace that is in pretty good condition. It was just recently fired up and it works well. We have another furnace in the basement, which has been there for quite some time, has a heat exchanger issue. It has a slight leak for carbon monoxide, so we have to take steps. We couldn't allow the building to be occupied in its current condition, but we have to be careful in terms of running that. The problem, we can get by, the problem is those two furnaces, how they're stationed, and with the ductwork that was present when the building was built and how it's been modified, cannot keep the building warm enough in order to stop any freezing of pipes. Pretty much everybody's aware that we have a dry and wet fire compression system in there. So one side's dry, one side's wet. We've had last 2 winters frozen pipe issues where pipes have broken, and we've had to go in there and make repairs. There's a significant amount of mold that's occurring in the building. Of course, according to, you get wet, musty conditions, you'll have that type of thing going on. We did have all the asbestos remediated. We did not have any lead paint taken care of. That wasn't required at this point, but the state, once we were aware of it, some of the work that was done in there had disturbed areas that had asbestos, so that had to be remediated. That's been taken care of. We've gotten a clean bill of health there. At this point here, we're trying to find ways to secure the building, keep it heated to a point that we can try to control further damage, and then move forward in terms of trying to find somebody to take this project on. That's the reality where we're at. Why am I doing this now? Why me? Why now? It sat for 21 years. Why don't we let it sit for 22 years or 23 years? Because the number for the renovation goes up, the value of the building goes down, and the cost to maintain it rises dramatically, along with the liability. We're getting to a point that insurance carriers, and I can show you documentation where insurance carriers, I know the building was condemned, then opened back up, and then I ran through the vast knowledge of all that stuff. I've thank you for spreadsheets and that. I started adding up the hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been spent by the city and by different groups, and I look after 21 years and we're right back where we were in 2005. And knowing what I know about our infrastructure and what we have now, we have to deal with this. It's no different than the other infrastructure. We have to take a stand and decide what we're gonna do with this before we lose any more value in the building, before we can't maintain it, or until we have an incident where it costs the city money. I know there's been two elections where it was brought to the city residents for consideration in terms of fixing the building. Both those were voted down. It's no secret that very shortly here we'll release new water and sewer rates to our residents and to our commission members. I expect that, very candidly, sometimes to be shocking, because you're going to see some of the infrastructure needs that are included in there. So the ability to go back to the residents, I don't believe will be there. So at this point here, I hate to say the word we're in a holding pattern, but at this point here, I am diligent and still trying to find somebody to take this building on. The last resort that I would offer is if a developer came and said, we want the property, we want to develop housing, or we want to develop something there and put it on that property, then that's something the Board of Commission would have to consider. But at this point here, the commission has given me direction, find a developer that's interested in the process. I've talked a lot. I want to answer your questions, and perhaps if you have a question, I can elaborate on what's going on. I probably haven't told you a lot more than what you didn't know when you walked in the room, but I felt it was important for you to be updated on what's been going on, the condition of the building. We've made available the engineering report that the city spent $25,000 on last February. It was released in February. It was done in '24. That tends to be updated here again soon. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to asking. I'm open to begging people to come here. I'm open to working with other organizations to find somebody to look at this building. But I will tell you, the clock is ticking. We can't go another 5 years and come back here in 5 years and say, well, we have to decide whether they're going to sell it or not. That can't happen. Okay? 20 years has gone by in the blink of an eye, and here we are. And sometimes we talk about the same things, and I look back on the notes that we talked about 20 years ago, and all we've done is lose a couple decades. So I'll open it up to questions. If you have questions, please ask me, and I'll try to make it clear. Yes, Georgia. Sure.
I'm wondering about, on the city's end, if someone came in and they're gonna be looking for considerations from the city, if it's tax breaks or tax, or something, has the city talked at all about what they'd be willing to do for a new owner?
No, I have not brought that back to the city in terms of tax breaks. If a deal came forward where there was serious discussion, then yes, I would. The things that have come forward already have been, would you be able to do a brownfield? Would you do a DDA? There's different funding mechanisms that can be part of that group I talked about. Right now, currently in the county, you can't get a brownfield through the county end of it. I think you saw recently in another community they tried that with a large development, and that failed. I am open to bringing back to the commissioners after the first year the establishment of our own brownfield commission, where we would, and brownfield, for a lot of folks that don't know, over the last couple years has been greatly enhanced. It used to be just basically environmental projects. It was kind of pigeonholed for those. Well, it's been greatly enhanced in terms of how it can be used and those type of things. But I would bring that back to the commission, or a DDA or something of that nature that has different funding opportunities. And if we did have a serious developer that we entered into those discussions, I would most certainly bring that. It's not my decision. That would be the commission that would have to make that decision of whether they're willing to give tax breaks.
Brownfield, obsolete buildings are now part of that.
Obsolete OPRAs, yes. There's also what we call pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. There's a bunch of programs that we've already discussed that we would look at, and that would bring back to the commission. Great question.
Then is, like Michelle's work that she's been doing and that, how would you see us sharing this? How do we?
I've never met Michelle. I'm guessing she's back there because her head was going like this, so I'd love her to come in. I'll give her my business card. Let's sit down and talk. Let's see if we're treading the same ground. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've opened up the building for a number of people you folks aren't even aware of on a weekly basis and walked them through them and talked to them and let them take their own videos, and they've sent photos to other people, and I've had those people call me. I've sent them reports. I'm an open book in terms of trying to supply them the information they need to help facilitate interest and further discussion.
Yeah, that's great, and I know that she does, like I said, you know, she's spending time that probably there isn't a city employee that's gonna be able to do that, you know, take that time to make those phone calls and turn over those rocks and stuff, so it'd be great if you can get with Mike and.
Looking forward to it.
See what we can do. Again, we're trying to spread a big net and it's pointless, it's a waste of time to go over the same territory for sure, you know, and there's.
Well, if she has contacts that she thinks she has an interest in, then let me help supply information to them. I mean, I don't feel like I have to drive the bus. That's not my purpose. You know what? We got to do something with it. If that's the mechanism we have to do, that's great.
So, in Pilot probably has thoughts on this, but about public exposure to it. You know, if it got media coverage or if it got, you know, that kind of thing. Is that something they consider? Or is there timing?
Yeah, they do consider that. I have tried to make some inroads in terms of having a short video done on the history of the building in terms of publicizing that, getting it out. It's difficult to get the local media involved in anything. I'll be very candid. The local media is really, we're going to lose the Voice newspaper here shortly. The Times Herald doesn't even know Marine City exists, and we send them press releases all the time on things happening in the city. I haven't seen one article published, very candidly. Blue Water Healthy Living writes articles once in a while. So, but Detroit News, Detroit Free Press.
Yeah, we're thinking more of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it can't be local, it's gotta be, but I'm willing, and if somebody has those contacts, sure, let's see if we can put that together. I was hoping maybe Commissioner O'Brien could help us with somebody at Wayne State from the architectural department, or somebody of that nature that produces short videos on those type of buildings could help us.
And I think that's, you know, it's really important that people feel that they're welcome to get engaged on this and to help spread the net. You know, if they have any suggestions or directions that they feel would be beneficial, there's certainly.
That's one of the reasons for the town hall, for us to ask for help and to keep you informed and tell you, we want your help, we want your input, and I'm asking you to help me, you know, work towards the building. Other questions?
Oh, I mean, would we talk to you talk to Pilot about, I'm just thinking about media exposure, like, who takes the lead on that to go after?
The city would take the lead, and we bring Pilot in. Pilot will take direction from the city. They work for us, okay? Although we signed a listing agreement. Think about this. Any publicity is going to benefit Pilot. Pilot's going to be there, their signs will be, so they're not going to be, hey, don't give us any publicity. If the building sells, there's something in it for them, so I wouldn't think that they'd be against that type of thing.
Right. No, because no sale, no commission.
No sale, no commission.
Right.
Yes.
I'm very new to this, but I love the building, and it's just such a part of Green City. What is the perceived value of the building itself? And I'm sure this is something that maybe all of you know, but I don't know. It's versus what the perceived investment will have to be to get it to code or whatever, or...
So that's a great question. That's a great question.
I can't wrap my head around...
Neither can
what
I.
kind of money we're-
And I can't get anybody that agrees that has a knowledge of those type of buildings. A number of people tell me you can't look at the building and assess a value on it. You have to see what you're going to make it, what the vision will be, because its current value doesn't have a lot of value. A couple developers say the value's in the land, not in the building.
Right.
So that's the land, and then they even argue, oh, what's the value of the land? As an example, I will tell you, when I started in this process, they wanted to equate the lot, the acreage there, to a lot in Marysville that is empty. And I think at that time the lot was like 440,000. And then another person says, well, I think your lot is like 235,000. What do you do with that? A lot in Marysville in the middle of nowhere, how do you equate it to a city lot with infrastructure already in the ground? So I didn't have any reason to say, I just didn't have any faith in that type of, that's one reason why we let the market. Can the market suggest what the value is? If you get people coming in and say, hey, I think the lot's worth 400,000, the building's worth $1, but I want to work on the building. And the city may not be opposed to that kind of deal. Part of the issue is not only finding somebody who loves the building, has the vision. Do they have the ability to sustain the building going forward? The worst thing in the world that could happen is somehow find somebody that brings it up to standards and it's empty and it's not utilized, and then it goes back to its current state. Or they get halfway through it, it's a mess, and they abandon it. That would just be, that's the wrong way to go about this. So you really got to make sure that that person or that group has the ability to see the project through and has the wherewithal to stick with their vision and to go forward with it. And, you know, if you think about it, it's a tough call. What business can I put in there that I know, or businesses, because some businesses come in and fail and come in, that'll sustain that building going forward? You know, what will that, what, I asked them, what would you rent that, the building for? What would you charge for a loft apartment? They talked about putting 4 apartments, they divided up the top floor. What would you charge for a loft apartment in there? How would you determine what the square footage value of that is? I mean, I've had those type of discussions with it, and you know, they can envision all kinds of things, but the reality is not so much.
Well, and the thing is, it's so unique. Like you said, trying to make it a real estate comp is impossible because there is no.
That's the problem. There's no
And so
comparable.
Same thing with it, you know, if, you know, when comparing it to a lot in Marysville to a lot here, you can't.
There's no comparison.
No, you can't do it, and that's why the value is, you can't stick a number on it. It's what a developer's gonna come in.
What the market
and they're gonna see
says
what
it's worth.
They think they can do with it.
I'd love to have 2 developers think the value's there and have them bid against. That would be great, but finding one is the key. Yes?
SC4 has recently purchased Berry.
I had a conversation with SC4 the other day.
SC4 and having an extension here would be amazing.
So, SC4 has a lot of plans in the works. One of the things, let me just put it this way, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to let out of the bag and not let it bag. There's a lot of discussions in terms of partnerships going forward with SC4, with other educational organizations. Let's just leave it at that. So that's being vetted right now. It remains to be seen what comes out of that, and then, okay, do they need other footprints? So I'm aware of that. I've had those conversations, but that's years in the making. And they literally have, you know, they're trying to bring programming in that meets what they're buying in terms of those facilities and doing things. And then, you know, obviously this would be a 4-year institution that would partner with them. So it's very complex. I was interested. I participated in the conversations, and I have it on my radar, but they're in another lane ahead of me in terms of what they already done and what they've agreed to. Brian? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I
Brian?
was going to say, to that same degree, they bought from another institution that had rehabbed Sperry's.
One of the people I talked to.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you did talk to them too.
Yeah, so, you know, there are some developments going on in the county. There's some things, there's some people in the county that are trying to get things accomplished. But unfortunately, some of the synergy hasn't really that was here previously is kind of slowed down a little bit. So we're trying to find ways to work around that in order to get things done. Somebody else had a question? Yes, Heather.
How far or has pilot reached nationally over this building?
You know, that's a good question, and he didn't respond to me, but I asked, can you tell on the views, generally it's IP address, but if anybody inquired, can you tell me where they're getting the view from? Is it other real estates that have prospective clients that they're making contact? Who's looking at it? Now, you gave me numbers, but give me the background information. They haven't gotten that back to me yet. So, you know, I make regular contact with them, probably every month in terms of, okay, developments, or let him know I'm sending somebody to you in terms of information and that type of thing. But in terms of who's actually doing the looking, I will tell you the majority of the serious developers, they don't do the looking. They have another person another company that does the looking. You don't even know they're in the realm. So as an example, there's a really large company out here that's looking something, and there's somebody else out over here that's making the inquiries, and you never know about this company until the deal's done. That's the guys that are players on that level, that's what they do.
My father-in-law used to call them bird doggers. They're
It's a
sent
good
out
name.
ahead. You know, they do the looking, they do the contacts, they do all that stuff, but it's not for them.
If this company comes in with that name, price goes up.
Right.
So that's, you know, they're smart. That's why they're in business. Somebody else had a question? I want to make sure I answer them. Yes, Roland.
First of all, Mike, I want to congratulate you on doing this. I know coming into this job and coming into the city and looking at one of the biggest issues we got in the city. I've been here 40 years. This building is very precious to me. I was a police officer in Charleston, South Carolina for 10 years, and I know about preservation, and I know the city of Charleston and a lot of historical communities would make sure that building never leaves. But I appreciate all your diligence and all the work that you're doing. Now, it's registered in the National Historical Register.
Mhm.
Is that a plus and a minus, and does it limit what you can do with the building?
Yes and no. Yes, it's a plus. I consider it a plus for a developer that wants to keep the building, maintain the building. Can it be taken off the National Register? Yes. Can it be removed as a park? Yes. Are there means to do that? Yes. But that hasn't been our focus. I haven't talked to them about doing that. We haven't even approached them. We've approached them in terms of what can you do to help us move this building forward. So we haven't gone to them and say, hey, we're thinking about removing this. How do we go about that? We're more interested in, and I've talked to our legal counsel in terms of how do we present this? Is there grants? Is there something that you can put us in line to? Developers, anybody that specialize in these types of buildings. That's what I've been looking for. From there.
You said there's no chance of the county or the state taking the deed to the property and
No.
doing something with it?
And I think that the designation does not prevent
A sale?
a sale
No,
or
it does not.
uses or anything. A designation does not stand in the way of, new uses for the building.
You'll see homes that have national preservation and they're sold, I mean. But
Any
again,
uses, I don't think that it's, it's a designation that you get, but it doesn't come with parameters. You
But
can't do this.
parameters
you
of
have to do
use,
this.
right.
It doesn't come with that.
thank you though, I appreciate it. Anybody else? Questions I didn't answer, you want to know? Something you have an idea? Yeah, Brian?
Would it be useful to relook at the engineering estimate? I mean, when the motion was made, the intent anyway, was that each portion of the property be looked into to see how that could be made accessible. And the end result, from what I read anyway, was basically a square footage measurement of every area and then a kind of blanket cheap or, one cost or a high-end cost applied to each. And then the other facet that, again, I was hoping would be displayed or analyzed is the ADA accessibility needed for each area, and all that was put was some blanket statement about ADA accessibility would need to happen. So I was just curious if This is a lot of money for what I think happened, and if there's any, going back to the company and kind of explaining, well, this is really the way that the, motion was worded, could you take a look at any of this other stuff?
Well, you know those pesky engineers, they'll say you've changed the scope. So,
I think the scope-
but let me offer on that. So, beyond the report, and I can talk about the report, but beyond the report, I also had ADA companies come in and give me estimates in certain parts of the building for platform lifts, for outside lift, elevator lift. So outside of this report, I have those documents from companies. One of the concerns is structural analysis for the outside lift. There's some issues that would have to be looked at. So I do have some numbers. A building of that nature would require a significant amount of ADA exemptions. So how it's going to be used, and we'd have to apply for a number of exemptions. As you are aware of, the parts of the building are so much drastically different that we would have to do some work in terms of platform lifts to get to different levels, access doors in terms of availability for wheelchairs and things of that nature, and walkers and that type of thing. So I do have some of those costs available. In terms of the engineering report, the report itself, my personal opinion, and I didn't accept this right away, and I went back and forth and had conversations like you're talking about, I can produce those emails, is thin. Because there's a lot more to the building that I wanted information on that really didn't come out of the report. But the bottom line is if you wanted to open a section of the building, let's just say the section, we'll just to make it easy, we'll say the Masons room, right? The old city gathering, the Masons room. How much would you have to put into it in order to open it? What do you do with it once you open it? What's it for? What's its purpose? How do you maintain it? How do you run it? How do you do whatever you want to do there so you can open that floor, that section? And that section is in-house by HVAC, electrical, plumbing, right? All those major lifelines that all have to be replaced. Every one of them has to be replaced. You got a roof over the building that now has issues, and you have structural issues that encase there. So could we find a way to open a room or the old kids zone? Yeah, you might find a way to do that and close it off and heat it and that. What's the purpose? What's its use? What do you get out of it? How do you promote it? How do you get a return out of it? How do you maintain it? Who watches it? The day-to-day operation. I don't have enough employees to do that. Literally, it's impossible. I can't turn it over to volunteers. It's a city facility. We're responsible for it.
Because I wasn't trying to go there, I just wanted, I think it would be beneficial to a buyer to understand, the accessibility required for each.
Oh, I think the buyers do understand that because they've looked at it. They walked through it, and very candidly, some of them have told me I would do this by section so I can start a money flow. If I can put something in here and I can work around the other sections, that's exactly how I'd go about it. I got to start getting some revenue in. I can't eat the elephant all at once, so they would do that type of thing.
I never looked at the pilot listing, but is that engineering study?
My understanding, it is attached to the pilot.
So in my own mind, as an investor, if I saw that is a stop sign. $11 million would scare you away from the building. So I just wonder if it's something that could be removed, and if they wanted it, they could come to you if there was a study done. But is that something that would attract a potential buyer, or that's going to be something that's going to deter a potential buyer?
I'm not a realtor, but it's the truth about the building, and it has issues. It's debatable whether it's 11 million, it's 8 million. Very candidly, multiple people tell it's more than 12 million today. That price is old. I'd rather somebody know, eyes wide open walking in, and they say, you know what, I see what the building, because when people come through it, they're gonna know. When these guys walk through it, they look at the cant of the beams downstairs, they look at, they see the issues, they look at the electrical, they see the issues, they look at the roof, they fly drones over the roof, they fly drones inside the building and inspect stuff. So, one of the first things that I keep getting back and forth is, they tell me I need to remove the, I'll call it a sealant, a brick protectorant that was put over the outside bricks years ago, because it's causing considerable deterioration to, and I've had 2 engineering firms tell me that.
That was supposed to have been done when the TIF formulas used and all that, that was part of that, was supposed to have been
That
done.
was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
That was done.
Okay,
So,
restoration, yeah.
removed it all?
Yeah, that was part of the big exterior, when the
Okay.
windows were replaced and all that
Several
happened. That should be done. That
Well-
should not be an issue, but I don't know where that's coming from.
You know what, a
Yeah,
brick to a mortar, I mean, I can, that's mortar, that's brick, but do I know? But that's,
So, yeah,
Not
well,
you
in the-
personally, but that you should know that knowledge, that you can pass it on.
Yeah.
And if someone says it,
You know-
it's not true.
and understand that part of the problem is, in order to bring, I get an expert, you get an expert, this person's opinion, that, but to get people to agree on it, there's a cost involved to bring them out, to provide that opinion, to get the analysis, and very candidly, I don't have the funds available to do that. I don't have the funds available to bring in the structural analysis, the AD analysis, that takes money, and I have to take it away from the other responsibilities I have. Yes, Sean?
So speaking of our lack of funds available to maintain the building right now, our inability to turn it over to volunteer labor, given the situation we're in, with the Historical Society's offer of this pile of money that they have, it's not a significantly huge sum, but it's $80,000 is nothing. Are there immediate needs that we have in front of us to get us through winter with the building that we can start tackling regardless of the long-term plans, because this is not going to sell by December and be solved?
We're going to, the first thing we have to do is remove some of the items that are in there and try to deal with some of the mold issue. We're going to put some things in there to start moving the air around a little bit, some air exchange type things, portable air exchange things. We're going to secure the interior doors in such a fashion that they're no longer secured by bungee cords and they can't be pulled open for access from the outside. We're going to rekey and do away with, you come into the city, move into the city, you also get a key to the building because there's enough keys in the city that they pass them around. It's problematic, but we're going to fix so the security of the building so we can't have stuff go in and out and access in and out. I'm more concerned about damage to the building from the outside, the bricks and stuff like that. There may be an entrance or two that we may have to completely shut off in terms of access just for somebody to go up there and get hurt or have it collapse on them.
people can't be going in there.
Right. So in that terms, we're trying to do that as much with our in-house people of accomplishing that type of stuff. I'm not shy. If I get to a thing where I need help, I will call and say, hey, or Heather, please, can I, and I've done that before already.
Especially with the leak in the roof, that's, that can cause so
Yeah.
many more problems.
What I'm reluctant to do, very candidly, is ask you for those type of things, because I keep in mind that you have an endowment money that going forward plays well with that group that I told you, and they like that type of partnership because they also utilize nonprofits to fund grants through. So I don't really want to come back to you and say, hey, help me pay for this short-term need when I know it takes away from the opportunity to lure a developer long-term. An endowment that supports a building is something that a developer would look at and say, that's a viable, I like that. There's other groups, remember I said, somebody else has got money in the game, they like that.
There is some of that money is not in the endowment.
Mhm.
That's not all endowment.
Yep, okay, I will keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a few thousand to fix a roof leak, that's something.
I'll stop by the house tonight, Brian, grab a check.
Well, I mean,
But-
and that's the kind of thing that when we offer that is
No.
to stop further damage.
No, I appreciate that. We are going to have a company come out and try to evaluate what it takes just to take care of the roof leaks, and then see if it's a rodent living in there, or what the issue is in terms of that's doing the damage in the auditorium area.
When you get that information, you can keep us up on that.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
then if we can step forward and help, we'll do what we can.
Okay. Yes, Roland?
Yeah, Mike, two real quick things. I know in Charleston, a lot of other areas, they mothball buildings like that and secure them well, because we always have eccentric or people who have lots of money that down the road might see something in that building. And the other thing is, and I know this from your law enforcement background, but have we thought about putting some video on the building so we can monitor it? And because I know the kids, there's a small group of kids, that's all it takes to get in the building or cause problems or whatever. A video watching the building is not super expensive anymore, so how that thoughts crossed your mind?
It absolutely has in one or more locations in the city. I'm not going to comment whether those things are already underway or in the works. So I think, yeah, it's a deterrent to see a camera there. I'd much rather you not be aware that the camera's there, but we're aware of it and it's being monitored.
And this isn't the only location.
That is not the only location. There's other locations in the city that everybody reads about that says, geez, why don't they put up a As we all know, that doesn't prevent it, because that doesn't identify it's after the fact, but it's better than nothing, and yes, we are addressing those issues. We are just not coming out and saying, yes, we're putting cameras here and there and there.
Because then you have vandals out looking for cameras.
Destroy the camera before
Yes,
they
that's
destroy
right.
something else.
Okay, it's almost 8 o'clock here. I want to wrap up. Last questions?
I just want to offer, if there's anybody here that's not a member of the Historical Society or not on our mailing list, if you want one of our recent newsletters, grab one. And this will give you some information about, besides our involvement with City Hall, or else we're up doing what we're doing. And you can join if you want, or if you just want to be on the mail list, get our information. It's just a couple of times a year that we send things. So I got those right here, so just let me know.
And I want to thank Georgia, and I want to thank Kim for participating. Yes, Kim?
You said something about there was a problem with Berman getting back in the building and then not talking about the people. I told you that the Friends of City Hall did have a device in the building, a ultrasonic repellent that was supposed to keep out bats, squirrels, any kind of small mammal. You might want to find out what happened to that device and plug it back in, because I bought it myself and it was enough to cover that.
Did you see it when we walked through it?
No.
Me either.
For it.
Yeah, all right, we'll have to look for it next week.
Device, about the size of one of those Roombas.
Really?
Yeah,
What's that cost?
it was like $40.
Get three.
I mean, when I bought it at the time, I
If
got
it's
one-
$40, I think I can afford $40. I'd put it in
We
there.
have an issue sometimes with mice and bats.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We really have.
You know what, when we go there next week, can we look for it? If not, give me the information on it, and I'll get another one, because it's worth its weight if it'll stop.
Yeah, because there was a bat problem, and once I put that in there, we really didn't have that. The dropping stopped.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. We appreciate it. And if you want to contact me, I have my business cards up here. Thank you, folks.
Thank you for doing this.
Yep.